surprised still to be hearing them on December 3rd and even December 4th. But it was a limited broadcast. I was listening carefully on the phone. It was on the air only between 15:03 and 15:15 UT and still a full hour. There was English weather, but the dates mentioned were Wednesday the 19th and Thursday the 20th. That would be November, 2 weeks ago. So they're replaying old stuff for no particular purpose, and certainly not helpful now. And before some music fell at 15:07, she says, "See you tomorrow." There is always lots of special programming around Xmas, and we always have a problem getting all that info out. But we don't want to give it too far in advance, as it may be overlooked when the time comes. Texas Radio Shortwave has lots of broadcasts planned via Germany from December 25th to 31st. But there's one before then on Sunday, December 7th. It's the program Music of Texas Artists number 2 on the 2 German stations as follows. At 13 on 9670, at 15 on 3975 and 6160, at 19 on 3975, and 23 for North America on 9670. The 2 programs, William Bill Silford, appear once a month via Channel 292 in Germany. And here's the December schedule. From the hour of music on Friday, December 12th at 3955 at 17 UT, repeated at 22. And Alpha Bill's Melting Pot exactly 1 week later on Friday, December 19th at the same times. Like his report last week, Ron Howard continues hearing RRI Program 1, Nabiri, Indonesia on 7289.93. Around 09 UT on November 30th and December 2nd. Romania on 7205 RRI Program 3. He needs to hear via remote in Bandung, Indonesia, closer to it. This is December 2nd at 2227. Good signal strength, but audio terrible, very garbled, unfortunately. And visiting his remote location at Port Hope, northern Michigan, Ken Zicky reports on his Michigan ARE tip sheet about satellite monitoring. He says there are fewer transponders on G19 KU band than in the past. And that's we have this channel to rent billboards. It's some programming. Is everyone falling into the we only stream trap? I won't go into all the numerical satellite parameter details, but here's some of what he was picking up on 25 November. Intelsat 21 at 58 degrees west, left channel, had NHK4 in English and Hindi and other languages in the international service. This is radio, not parallel TV, at 1830. Then, 97 degrees west, Galaxy 19, the Overcomer Ministry, the usual blend of Barry Butler stare, the new guy who never seems to announce his name, and more music than usual. That was at 0305, and on the same satellite, World Radio Network was heard with Korean broadcasting news and talk in English. As for television, he reports Intelsat 21 at 58 degrees west with TRT World English News. That's Turkey. And the same satellite also had NHK World with English news and features. And Galaxy 19 at 97 degrees west was carrying Press TV from Iran in English. Ireland, or NAN, from NordDX in the Swedish DX Federation via RusDX and the CDX. Radio Nova International is a new shortwave station beginning broadcasting to Europe and North America in early 2026, aimed directly at shortwave listeners, aiming to recreate the sound of memorable stations such as Radio Netherlands, Radio Sweden, WRNO, and Super Rock KYY. Ireland was not actually mentioned explicitly in that item. However, Mike Barefoot has more info. Neil Armstrong, a.k.a. Neil Gatesman, who's a DJ at Radio Caroline, hosted on WRGH and Shortwave Fans Group November 1st. And the same day, he started the Radio Nova International Listeners FB Group. One frame, as I mentioned, is 9670, so probably channel 292 in that case. November 7th, he said, Nova International will begin broadcasting to Europe and North America using hired airtime from transmitters on both continents starting early next year. Once a week to begin with, but broadcasting will be more frequent if there is enough listener support. so it will also be heard from one of the U.S. private shortwave stations. Well, in response to last week's AP story about North Korean jamming being reduced or cut off from broadcasts emanating from South Korea, Ron Howard says this: recently, National Unity Radio moved to 7235, and for a while was not jammed by North Korea. But on November 28th, the jamming had finally moved over from the former frequency 7340 to 7235. Another example of North Korea still jamming another station directed towards their country. This is transmitted from Taiwan, and Ron says the 1-minute English quotation was an hour earlier than before at 11:38 UT, November 28th on Friday. A distinctive theme music followed by a segment in Korean and this quotation: "A wise man changes his mind, a fool never will," which is a Spanish and Japanese proverb. On Monday, December 1st at 11:39, heard via remote in California, the quotation was, "Only morning has gold in its mouth." An AI overview says it's a variation of a German proverb: "Morgenstund hat Gold im Mund." The morning hour has gold in its mouth. Often attributed in a slightly different form to Benjamin Franklin as "the early morning has gold in its mouth," or "the early bird catches the worm," analogous. Now there's a second broadcast of National Unity Radio via Taiwan. It's on 5900, heard Sunday, November 30th, between 20 and 21 UT, via remote in Japan, and still with prominent North Korean pulsating jamming. Ralph W. Perry in Illinois was still hearing the radio war between the KKK and the Turkish jammer on November 21st, and also November 30th, 11525.04, Radio Dengegel via Tashkent, Uzbekistan, presumably a good carrier, but low modulation at 1332. While Radio Redshift Erdogan via Turkey, the jamming station, that's just named the extra school, was on 11545, 20 kilohertz away at 1335. With hypnotic drumming and crazy exotic horn solo, and the chorus joining in. Fun stuff, it says. That way, will have been their final broadcast forever. Alan Holder on the Isle of Wight says he heard nothing on December 2nd in that frequency range, nor a Turkish jammer. The website has this message: Voice of the People Radio is closed. But then Alan Holder found a detailed story from the Euphrates News Agency, ANF, dated December 1st from Brussels. One of the unmistakable cornerstones of the free press, Radyoya Dengegel, has brought its 23-year broadcasting journey to an end. The station carried the memory of Kurdish media, began in 2002 under the name Radyoya Denge Mesopotamia. Then it was Denge Kurdistan and Denge Welat, and finally Dengegel, carrying its voice from prisons to mountains across Kurdistan. It became the voice of the Kurdistan National Revolution. Mustafa Rezan said Dengegel ended its broadcasting life after completing its mission. Despite shortcomings and limitations, it reached an important threshold. Unfortunately, with technological development, the mission of radio is also diminishing. Digital media is developing. Publishing and broadcasting are evolving accordingly. The Kurdish freedom struggle has entered a new phase. Ron Howard reports on Myanmar 5985 via remote in Thailand. November 28th with me. Friday night live show, a special in fact, with a large hall live coverage of the 100th anniversary of the Mandalay Myanmar Amateur Musical Association. And you can also view and hear it via live streaming after 1511, past 1620. The Media Magazine you monitor with your mind. World Radio 2324. A non-commercial service, as is our website, worldofradio.com. Our thanks this week for financial support from Richard Langley in New Brunswick. Sending contribution in U.S. dollars via PayPal to WORADIO@yahoo.com. It says, it goes without saying what a great service you supply to the shortwave enthusiast community. When the Hauser tribute by money order or check on a U.S. bank to Glenn Hauser, P.O. Box 1684, ENIDOK 73702. Netherlands from the website radiodelta.am on November 28th. From the historic shores of Elburg, slicing through the shortwave bands like a spark in the night, this is Radio Delta. We're writing a fresh chapter in our history. For the first time, you can hear us on our brand new frequency, 5970. Broadcasts are cutting through the airwaves loud and clear. Join us every Saturday and Sunday from 08 to 16 UT for our signature program, 5 Decades of Music. And starting 20 December, Radio Delta will be broadcasting every single day on 5970 right into the new year. Greetings to listeners everywhere. Remember, keep that shortwave spirit alive. The world is only a frequency away. Some North American pirates on unusual frequencies, reported by Mark Taylor, Wisconsin, in the NASA flash sheet. On 4032 USB, Ballsmacker Radio, moved down from 6960 AM. November 29th at 0304 to 0334. And on 4855 WDOG, November 24th at midnight 50. Philippines, as predicted last week, Radio Pilipinas is back on shortwave near the USAGM site at Denel. The previous broadcasts have resumed. There's English from 02 until 3:30 UT on 12020, 15640, and 17665. The Filipino service, or Tagalog, which includes some bits of English, at 1730 to 2030 on 9370, 9925, and 12120. Since December 1st, according to Abhishek Gupta, it's been very widely reported, most direct, sometimes into North America, or via remotes. For some breaks in transmission, so it may have seemed to go off the air earlier than scheduled, but came back on if you kept listening. The 12 megahertz frequencies are not very good over here because of utility interference. Alexander Mialnikov forwards news from kurzwellenradio.wordpress.com on November 30th. Robert Christian Schwartz has been appointed President and Director General of Radio Romania. His responsibilities include Radio Romania International. Originally from Romania, he joined Deutsche Welle in 1992 and was the station's Romanian department manager from 2000 until 2020. DW's Romanian service is still online but left shortwave at the end of 2006, followed by a number of other languages, including German. Stephen Luce in Texas opines, I suspect this is not good news for the future of our ion shortwave. DW has spent the last 20-plus years chopping and eliminating shortwave output. I suspect a lot of this thinking will be present with the new administrator running Romanian broadcasting. We've already seen some posts dealing with the budget conflict between RR ion shortwave and the domestic medium wave services. Lest we think of ARES, the Amateur Radio Emergency Service, as an American thing, this from Rusty X, a public association of ham radio operators to provide emergency communications, often in cooperation with the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situation. Uses certain frequencies for disaster communications, such as 14292, central frequency for ARES. Apparently, there is no separation of church and state in the Solomon Islands. Ron Howard notes that SIBC 5020 has been carrying a lot of Christian programming. In fact, the Prime Minister delivered a mind-blowing speech about supernatural care and cleansing. And the format around closing, at 12 UT, they would usually sign off, but sometimes stay on the air with music through the night. But they actually went off the air after some Christian hymn on November 29th, and not heard it all on November 30th. Still no talk in English from Spain, which had been Wednesdays only at 23 to midnight UT, on the 3 frequencies at least, not including the imaginary North American one, 9690. And that was still the case on December 3rd when we checked. I finally listened to the podcast of the last English broadcast, November 19th, where Marvin Quintana said there would be 2 other English announcers in future programs. She did not say it would be the following week. In the British Physics Club, Michael Anderson sent them an inquiry and got a reply December 4th. Thanks for your messages and listening to us. Marilyn left, and now we, the 2 new hosts, are starting again the broadcast next week. That would be December 10th. We needed some training and time to adapt, but next Wednesday we will be on air again. Best wishes from Daniel Riobo. That's spelled R-I-O-B-O-O with an accent on the middle O. Via Mike Cooper, an opinion piece from the Scotsman, November 27th, by the former First Minister of Scotland, Henry McLeish. How populist attacks on BBC are motivated by an Orwellian desire to hide the truth. Authoritarians whose route to power lies in trashing the truth despise the corporation. In the AIB Global Media Briefing for December, BBC World Service has announced a series of programming changes as part of a commitment to add more programming and services closer to the audiences and communities they serve. The Global News Programming Newsday will establish a team in Kenya, representing from London and Nairobi, while its leading Africa-focused news podcast, Focus on Africa, will relocate from London to join the teleproduction team in Nairobi. But Ricky Lowe in Calgary says Newsday has been co-presented from Africa for all of its existence. So I'm not certain I'll use the word new to describe the arrangement. And Stephen Luce in Houston says, on many occasions, Newsday has been co-presented from Africa, but that's not been the norm. There seemed to be more African content in the early years of the show, but that has scaled back. The segments at the top and bottom of the hour have always included more African content. The show now appears to be leaning back to its roots. From the New York Times, December 2nd, via Mike Cooper. Trump to close Voice of America's overseas offices and radio stations. This by Minyo Kim reviews a lot that has already happened. But the push to close the offices appears to contradict a federal judge's order from April requiring Trump officials to resume operations at VOA. Kerry Lake wrote in a memo to Congress on November 25th that the administration intends to close 6 overseas news bureaus and 4 overseas marketing offices, including Jakarta, Islamabad, Nairobi, and Prague. Also to shutter these transmitting stations, 6 of them in Germany, Thailand, Botswana, and Djibouti. Senator Gene Shaheen of New Hampshire, top Democrat on the Foreign Relations Committee, says shuttering VOA news bureaus and transmission stations is a win for Putin, Xi, and dictators around the world. The 2 U.S. adversaries each spend giant dollars a year to disseminate content favorable to their governments, including disinformation, according to a recent State Department assessment. Stephen Luce says perhaps the Philippine and Kuwait sites would be turned over to those governments. Sites in Germany had already been slated for closure prior to the Trump administration, assuming that an expanded Kuwait facility would take up the slack. I wonder if the Thai government has any interest in taking over the U.S. AGM facility there. Actually, there are 2 of them, as Ben Dawson points out, the shortwave at Udantani and the megawatt medium wave near Bangkok. Mike Cooper forwards a story from FloridaPolitics.com, November 18th, about the spin cycle. SPIN. Representative Corey Mills, the New Smyrna Beach Republican, has filed the Stopping Propaganda Indoctrination Nationality Act, SPIN, H.R. 5117, forbidding content created under the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948 from being disseminated in the U.S. or territories. This would apply to content produced through the AGM, including VOA, RFE, and Radio Marti. Bill Holford replies, if followed to the letter, that would effectively kill Marti, an outcome I don't necessarily oppose, but his district must have a relatively low Cuban-American vote count, because those folks will go ape. In a similar vein, VOA and its kin would need to geo-block its websites to keep out U.S. visitors. Wouldn't it be funny if U.S. citizens had to use a VPN from elsewhere to access it? If you really want to see truth have a fighting chance, bust up the media mega conglomerates instead. World of Radio Latin, KBW has a transmission problem at our scheduled time of 0400 UT Saturday on 5085. Check again 24 or 48 hours later on UT Sunday or Monday, when it might be airing instead, as happened last week. Jim Salmon says the December edition of Sony Jim's Trance Journey is now available. Listen online or via our amazing shortwave relay partners, carrying our electronic music programming to places other transmitters just can't quite reach, such as every Wednesday through December on WRMI, that is UT Thursdays at 0200 on 9955. Also on Saturday, the 6th of December, from Real Mix Radio in Finland, 6195 at 11 UT and again at 19. At channel 292, 9670 in Germany. Saturday the 13th at 10 UT and Sunday the 21st at 11 UT. WRNO New Orleans is sometimes missing from 7505 in the evenings, but other times it's on the air well into the late night, such as Friday, November 28th, still on at 0735 UT, preaching in English. On December 1st, it seemed to be a live DJ giving a time check at 0612. It's 12 past the hour and playing some country music. Could it be a format change? And was still on at 0722, but with English lessons for Chinese speakers. In the Michigan ARE tip sheet, Jerry Goodell of Southgate says 50 kilowatt clear channel WJR 760 was off the air for an hour the evening of November 26th, starting at 10:46 Eastern. I drove to the transmitter site and found the area had a DTE energy power outage. I thought part of being an emergency broadcast hub station was hardening the facilities to withstand EMP and power outages. Don't they have a backup generator? Ron Howard warns us that Radio Vanuatu is not the only station on 726 either. On December 2nd direct, he was hearing Chinese underneath until Vanuatu went off at 7:58, after which the other station was in the clear. Apparently, PBS Xinjiang East, Turkestan. Alan Rose says there's now a new version of his music programs on shortwave. Also latest editions of English language program schedules of BBC, China, Romania, Taiwan, and Turkey, all available via tinyurl.com/shortwave programs. The propagation outlook from SWPC issued December 1st. And KHz is peaking at 30 and 5 on December 5th, 25 and 5 on December 24th, also as on preceding and following days. A lesser peak of 18 and 5 on December 13th. Florida States of only 5 and 2, December 9th to 11th, and 16th. Solar flux actually hit 220 December 4th, but was predicted to go from 190 down to 175. December 13th and 14th, again on the 20th to 22nd, and up to 195 by December 25th. For much more info, consult our website, worldofradio.com. With many thanks to all our stations and contributors. Hope you'll hear me again next week. Glenn Hauser concluding World of Radio Channel 324 with a standard disclaimer.
Transmitters located in Germany. This is Shortwave Radio.
Over the air, CQ-Serenade. No, you don't know just what it means. Dust your shoes off, shake out your jeans. Get on your feet, jump to the beat of CQ-Serenade. This is Shortwave Radio. Oh, I love it.
Thank you for spending some time on 3975 and 6160 AM. This is Shortwave Radio. You can contact us at either 3975 or 6160@shortwaveradio.de. We do hope you enjoyed what you listened to. Please join us again tomorrow. Have a peaceful night. This is Shortwave Radio, signing off.